Summer Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Ooh, I like when you press that one.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblum, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network on a Thursday afternoon. Great to have you with us. Appreciate you turning over to Sports Talk wherever you have been. We are the Sports Talk influencers here in South Carolina. You want us to be influenced about your sporting opinion. That's what we're here to do, to share ours and to hear what you have to say. Sometimes you agree, sometimes you disagree. That's fine. That's what makes the world go round here in sports, and there is plenty to discuss one way or another. Arch Manning has come off the board. He is a hook 'em horns, Texas Longhorns. Now, they think they're going to win. Well, he won't be there, of course, for another year. But starting in 23, Texas fans are expecting to win like 3 national championships now. But you know what? Don't poo-poo it, because a great quarterback with the right people can certainly do that. Look what Deshaun Watson did for Clemson. Look what Trevor Lawrence did for Clemson. So on and so forth. The quarterback's so important, but with the right offense. And, of course, having Steve Sarkisian as the coach there, a guy that's a quarterback guru, no doubt played a big role. And you know what, Chris? It's good to see for Sarkisian, because here's a guy that has totally resurrected himself after crashing and burning, both professionally and personally. And Nick Saban deserves a heck of a lot of credit of taking him under his wings and letting him work in his program and promoting him up through the program to become the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach. And that led to him getting this job at Texas, and a little bit of a shaky start there, but it seems like they've gotten things back on firm ground now, and getting the commitment of Arch Manning is a big step in the right direction. That will attract all kinds of talent. It's not like they are talentless at Texas right now. Correct me, isn't Quinn Ewers the quarterback there now? Didn't he go back to Texas from Ohio State? He's not chopped liver. I'm sure their plan is for Ewers to be the quarterback this year. And will he be draft eligible after this year? Let's see. He may have to spend one more year at Texas. So that will make for kind of an interesting dynamic. That'll be similar to the Oklahoma situation, where you had Spencer Rattler firm as the quarterback going into his what was his 3rd season there, 2nd season as a starter, and here comes Caleb Williams, and eventually Caleb Williams became the starting quarterback, and Rattler hit the door, and eventually Williams hit the door. So, you know, it's great to have great quarterbacks and highly touted quarterbacks, but sometimes handling that can be a problem.
You know, it's funny you mentioned Texas expects to win 3 national championships with Arch Manning in the fold. You mentioned that as if that's not what UT fans expect all the time. The expectations of Texas football are to be Texas football and go win national championships. And it's funny you bring up Steve Sarkisian, and we were talking last week about the Jack Leggett coaching tree with Eric Bakich taking over at Clemson, along with obviously Tim Corbin at Vanderbilt and Kevin O'Sullivan down at Florida. Nick Saban, for all of his warts, has done a pretty good job of producing terrific assistants that have gone on to do terrific things, right? I mean, you've got Kirby Smart, and of course you mentioned Sarkisian, and then the Jimbo Fisher. The list goes on and on and on with him.
Throw Billy Napier in there.
There's another one, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, the list goes on and on and on with him. So that the coaching trees, and you can tap into them if you get so lucky and find somebody. And I think Nick Saban probably has done as good a job of winning on the field as he has done resurrecting assistant coaching jobs and then producing talent to go coach somewhere else. And Sarkisian is just the latest in a long line of Nick Saban disciples that have gone on. Not all of them have been successful, but the ones I just pointed out, I don't think you can argue have not been.
That's the big news in recruiting. We'll have a complete recruiting report for you. South Carolina looking ahead to an official visit weekend this weekend. They've got 12 scheduled. Plus, they've got a couple of important unofficial visits coming in. London Humphreys in the 23 class, wide receiver from Nashville, and Dante Reno, quarterback in the 24 class out of Connecticut, who's made multiple visits now to South Carolina with this one. Seems to love the place. They seem to love him. Everything seems to be pointing to him eventually announcing for South Carolina and doing so relatively early so he can help attract players to South Carolina. But then again, you got to think, too, that South Carolina in the 23 class is hoping to get Dylan Lonergan, who's going to visit Stanford this weekend. If they get him in the 23 class, that'll be big for them in the 23 class. Of course, Reno in the 24 class, it's still a couple of years away. And currently in the Gamecock quarterback room, you've got Rattler, and then you've got the young man who just committed to them. What's his name? James Daniels, I think it was, who's going to be walking on. But he's got like 4 years of eligibility left, and they say he's a baller. There's nothing wrong with this guy, a big guy with a big arm who was coached by the same quarterback coach that works with Rattler. So he might have some talent. He could be a guy that could come out of nowhere and give him some help at quarterback. And then, of course, let's don't forget that Luke Doty is still in town. And
I think everybody has forgotten Luke Doty is still in town.
Luke Doty's like, hey, remember me? I was an Elite 11 quarterback. I was a Mr. Football in South Carolina. Remember me? I just haven't been healthy. Let me show you what I can do when I'm healthy. And then
Braden Davis as well.
You got Braden Davis and
Tanner Bailey.
You got Tanner Bailey, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the state. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you're not going to keep all these guys happy. Unfortunately, they're going to hit the transfer portal. And South Carolina had one transfer out today, Ladarian Craig, who came in as a freshman last year in the 21 class. He put his name in the transfer portal, so he's looking to leave. And it's just, it's free agency. It's complete and total free agency with the 1 year free transfer rule right now. And players, if they feel like they're not going to get a chance, or if they even got a chance, they're not going to be the guy, then they're going to go somewhere else and see if they can be the guy somewhere else. So that is the way it is.
But if you're a coach, isn't that what you want? To continue, look at what Clemson has done, continue to get better at every position. Isn't that what you want? Isn't that why you go out and try and recruit a new quarterback every cycle, a new running back or two every cycle? Because not only do you want the competition, but you feel like you can consistently get better. You've got Spencer Rattler on loan for a year. Take advantage of what he can bring, and maybe he can lure some recruits to Columbia to help them out on down the road. But then it's a free-for-all after that, and that's why I think you've got to continue to recruit heavily at that position year in and year out to make competition better. You're not going to run into a situation, very few schools are going to have the luxury that Clemson had, that you can pencil in an NFL draft prospect and Deshaun Watson, and then the number one overall pick and Trevor Lawrence to take over for him. That's just not going to happen all that often. But I think if I'm a coach, this is a great problem to have. You'd rather have too much talent than be bereft of talent.
Yeah, but the problem is, what about development? How do you develop a player? And I mean, he doesn't give you a chance to develop him. He might not be a really good player or great player when he arrives, and the patience to be developed and try to rise above the competition just isn't there anymore. It's let me go find some other place where maybe there is no competition, or I drop down a level and compete there. The mindset today with a lot of players, and maybe it's a majority of players, and I think it's kind of unfortunate, is play me now or see me later. And don't worry about developing me. Don't worry about me trying to become better and beating the guy or two guys ahead of me. If I can't get it right now, I'm going to go somewhere else. And I think coaches don't want to be in a position where they've constantly got to re-recruit the same position. I mean, that just wears you down eventually. And I mean, I think it kind of eats away at your program internally if you're always having, and it's really bad, of course, in basketball with so many transfers happening in basketball.
It's what Gary Gilmore was talking about after their season came to an end up in the Greenville Regional a couple of weeks back, the head coach of Coastal. He talked about, I don't know how young coaches do this. He basically said the transfer portal may run me out of coaching a little bit quicker than I want because of that. He likes the fact I could bring and cultivate a high school player, and if I get him through the draft, I mean, that's the first thing baseball coaches have to worry about is just getting them through the draft. And if they come to campus, then you've got 3 years to play with them. But the problem is they may, after that first year, think, well, I'm not getting enough playing time at XYZ University, so I want to go someplace else. And Gary Gilmore made the comment, I think is what you're hitting on, Phil, is you don't get that opportunity to cultivate these players and sort of develop a relationship with them because you have to overhaul your roster every single year. Look at Lamont Paris and what he's trying to do at USC this upcoming basketball season. And will he have to go through it again next off season?
Yeah.
And the off season after that. I mean, how many players, if you're not Duke and North Carolina and Kansas and some of the blue bloods of the sports, how long do you keep these players before you, and how many players do you have to sort of reinvent every single year? Do you get 6 or 7 new players in basketball? Do you get 8? Do you only have to worry about getting 2? I just don't see how coaches handle this.
Guys, I've got a solution or something to offer to you guys. Just your thoughts. Offer these guys 4-year scholarships. Make them sign an agreement when they're first brought on. When they sign that agreement to come to your school, make them sign a contract for 4 years, just like you would have a coach sign a contract. And then if they break that contract and decide to transfer, you then bring in the 1-year rule where you have to sit out. But right now, it is a fairly new rule. You are allowed to offer these guys 4-year contracts, but it never happens.
That's not true. And I can
name one.
South Carolina.
Name a player.
Every player at South Carolina has 4-year scholarships.
No, they don't.
Yes, I had lunch with an administrator today who told me that.
They are given 1-year scholarships, which are renewed every year.
No, they're given 4-year scholarships when they sign.
I don't believe that for a second.
Well, I had lunch with a senior administrator today, and we were talking about not because of anything that was going to come up on the show. We were just talking about the topic. He said they have 4-year scholarships at South Carolina. And if you are a player at South Carolina, and let's say you're not good enough, you don't cut the mustard, and you are encouraged to transfer, but you want to stay, then they will allow you to stay and will stay on scholarship. And they have a way of covering that within their athletic program that allows them to keep you on scholarship, but it doesn't count against their numbers. And it happens more. And this isn't just football. I'm talking about across the board. This happens, from what I was told, it happens more in you find that from what I was told, in the women's sports, the women athletes who find out, they're just not good enough to play at this level. They've been recruited and all that, and they find out they're not just good enough. They don't want to transfer as much as the men. They want to stay. They like the school. They like the academics. Maybe they have a boyfriend or whatever the case may be. They're apt to stay versus departing on a less regular basis than the men. But yeah, I was told that South Carolina gives them 4-year deals when they sign. I think it's up to the individual schools to decide how they do that.
And you know what, right there, I'll clap for South Carolina. They are one of the few schools. I was reading an article just earlier today. They must be one of only 1 or 2 schools within the SEC that do that. And you're right. I found an article right here, a great quote from Ray Tanner saying that they want to get out in front of that and incentivize their players to stay. So shame on me. I should have researched that first.
You can apologize at any point. Go ahead.
But if you make,
no, go ahead. I'll wait. I'm going to go silent, radio
rule,
silence till I get the apology.
If you were to make that a rule for everybody, I think you wouldn't see as many of these players transfer. But right now, with schools having the option to not offer those 4-year deals, you're not incentivizing players to stay.
He's sorry, Phil. But his point is valid, and he's not wrong. I mean, the USC example notwithstanding, Pat's not wrong about this. The problem
he is right. You're right about that. Yeah.
I am wrong about South Carolina, though.
Just using USC as an example, but he's not wrong about the overall situation, and that may alleviate some of these problems.
Yeah. Ole Miss defeats Arkansas just a few moments ago. How about that? Ole Miss is playing for the championship. Ole Miss beat Arkansas 2-0. We got Mike coming up at the bottom of the hour. Get his thoughts on that.
2 hours and 6 minutes.
You
want to talk about a baseball game? Well done, guys.
1 run in the 4th, 1 run in the 7th. Arkansas had 4 hits. Ole Miss had 7 hits. This is a team that barely got into the tournament, but it doesn't matter. They got in, and they've lost once. They lost last night was their first loss in the postseason, I believe. And because that forced this deciding game today. So Ole Miss moves on to play Oklahoma, right? Ole Miss and Oklahoma.
Correct.
Couple of O's.
Saturday.
Ole Miss and Oklahoma playing for the national championship. And that was, I don't think too many people had them written down as the two who'd be standing after all of this. So Ole Miss and Oklahoma getting ready to face off. So you got one current SEC team and one that'll be in the league in the near future. Yeah, and here's the other thing I wanted to say real quick before we go to the break, talking about Arch Manning going to Texas. And Texas is going to be in the SEC. And I just got a feeling it's supposed to start in 25, right? Do you have a feeling like I do that we're going to have an announcement at some point in time that these two clubs, these two teams are coming into the SEC sooner than in 2025? It wouldn't surprise me at SEC Media Days, for example, where they like to drop these kind of bombs on you. Like it was last year at SEC Media Days when the news broke about Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC. Remember that? Right as Texas A&M was about to go up on the main stage, the news was breaking, and Jimbo Fisher's like, hello, we're here. And Texas A&M AD was all ticked off about it. I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if that were to happen because of the desire to go ahead and get into the SEC and, redo the whole structure of things, redo the whole playoff scenario. Do you think it's going to last to 25?
No, there's no way. And my feeling is when BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and Central Florida join the Big 12, which is expected, next year, if not 2024, there's no way they keep Texas and Oklahoma just out of spite. They'll say, go ahead and go. We've got your replacements. You don't want to be here. None of our schools want you here. Go away.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you. They won't be in time for this upcoming athletic season, but I'd be stunned if they're not full members by next athletic season.
All right, our phone number, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery. Lucky number here on Sports Talk since 2002. More than $829 million in lottery proceeds have been used to fund lottery tuition assistance for students attending technical colleges in South Carolina. Learn more about the South Carolina Education Lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/education wins. Playing for fun is a win for education. I was over today at USC. They unveiled the signage for the USC Women's National Championships. In fact, I've already seen one on the highway. I'll tell you where. We'll hear a little bit from Dawn Staley and Ray Tanner as well. We'll take your phone calls. Mike Morgan coming up. MJ Ward, our golf international reporter, will join us. And Matt Hogue from Coastal Carolina as well.
Independence Day is coming. Is there a better way to spend 4th of July weekend than listening to good music, eating some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, enjoying an ice cold beverage, and watching baseball? Oh, did we mention we'll have 2 of the biggest fireworks shows in Segra Park history? Join the Fireflies for Fireworks with the Phil presented by Prisma Health July 2nd and a game against the Pelicans July 4th. Tickets are available now at firefliestickets.com.
We're with Major Billy Downer of DNR. Of course, hunting is very popular across the state of South Carolina. Major Downer, what things should our hunters be thinking about before they get out in the fields?
It seems like every other show we're talking about hunting safety of some sort. Whether it's turkey season or deer season, hunters always need to be aware of their target. Make sure before you pull that trigger that you know what you're looking at. Whether it's a turkey during turkey season or a deer during deer season, you know your identifying features of your game. You know what's beyond that target in case you miss.
Learn more about the great outdoors in South Carolina with Major Billy Downer on SC Wild here on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Summer weather has arrived in South Carolina, and you know what that means. Sweet, tasty South Carolina peaches are hitting shelves near you. Most people tend to think of Georgia as the peach state, but South Carolina is the East Coast's top producing peach state, so we know a thing or two about a great tasting peach. The next time you're in the grocery store or local farmer's market, keep an eye out for those sweet, tasty, certified SC peaches. Discover more about the tastier peach state at scpeach.org.
Back we are, Sports Talk Media Network. Phil Kornblue, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Tomorrow night I'll be off. Got some family stuff going on. And a member of the family, Matt Smith, will be here with Bergie and Pat, the Sports Talk
Indeed.
family. That is my second most important family is the Sports Talk family. Let's go to Billy in Surfside Beach. Get things rolling tonight here on Sports Talk. Billy, it's good to have you with us. How are things along the beach, you lucky dog?
It's okay, man.
Come on. Are you out there? Are you walking in the Strand right now? It's like 95 degrees, but you got your ankles in the water.
Work for U.S. Foods, man. It's a struggle every day on the beach. I'm being dead serious.
Traffic?
I'm
Is
serious.
it the traffic that's beating you down or what?
It's the traffic's beating me down. Yeah, it's the absolute traffic.
I understand.
Hey,
And Phil, Billy can tell you.
you.
Go ahead, Billy.
What's up, Chris?
Hey, pal. Billy can tell you it never gets to 95 degrees on the coast. It's like 79 over there in Surfside today.
Yeah.
It's a nice day on the coast.
Always. You get the ocean breeze. You get ocean breeze.
Indeed.
Condos right across 17 business, so I get the ocean breeze.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, hey, I got a question for you, Phil, and I got just a comment real quick on the Arch Manning thing. I'm content. I actually thought Tony Elliott made a push for Arch Manning, just having some connections with him when he was at Clemson as offense coordinator or co-offense coordinator, however you want to label that. But congratulations. I thought it was going to be Texas. I'm not going to lie to you. And look, his IQ is second to none. But watching his film, I'm telling you, I'm happy what Clemson got with. I know you don't like to hear the stars. I don't see you, but I'm sure you do an eye roll when I say Clemson has three, next year we'll have 3 5-star quarterbacks on the roster. So yeah, I mean with DJ Uiagalelei, Cade Klubnik, and Chris out of Alabama,
Vizina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, I love him, big, strong. He's I'm content, and I know they were pushing for Arch Manning. I get it. I don't know what happened there, but his IQ's second to none. His athletic ability. I mean, I'm just calling a spade. I've seen the equivalent, if not better.
Yeah.
And I'm no scout, but I promise you, I've just seen. But congratulations, Texas, to Texas, and my question to you and Chris, with the hot streak Clemson's on with recruiting, with Brent Venables gone as the defense coordinator, and Barry Goodwin is there. Wes Goodwin is there. Do you see any drop off with Clemson? Do you see them as far as, and Phil, I'm putting you on the spot here, Bo.
Mm-hmm.
What's your prediction with Clemson football this year? Do you see them as Final Four?
As far as their defense, my prediction is, in the words of Mr. T, pain. I mean, there will be no drop off. Look, I could coach.
That's Clever Lang, not Mr. T. That was the character. It's Clever Lang.
Well, Mr. T,
pain.
I go right to the man himself. But right, Clever Lang, pain. Nice catch on your part. I mean, I could coach that defense. Pat could coach that defense. Chris could coach that defense. It's going to be great because they got great players throughout. I mean, just make sure that they get to the stadium on time, loaded up front, end to end. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches across the defensive front for Clemson. And then the linebackers, we've been talking about Trenton Simpson, but I think Barrett Carter is going to blossom into a great linebacker for them this year.
Thank you.
They're going to run.
You, Phil. Thank you. I agree. Barrett Carter. I love Barrett Carter, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're going to run like crazy at linebacker, like they haven't run before in terms of speed. I think you're going to see many more tackles for loss from the linebacker positions than maybe what you've seen in recent years. Not to take anything away from those guys that played there before, because they were really good players. And then secondary should be excellent as well. I know they got to replace 2 starters at corner, but they got guys who will be stepping in who have played a good bit, got a lot of snaps underneath them. I don't see a single weakness in that defense anywhere. Not a single weakness in that defense. So offensively,
taking it off.
Offensively, you still got to show me something at quarterback. You know, you got to show me something at quarterback. And I think on the offensive line, a couple of guys have got to step up and play at a higher level. And how they're going to solidify the center position, I think, will be a big question as well. Hey, thanks for the phone call. Be back in a moment.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. A chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly before 7 p.m., partly cloudy with a low around 71. Northeast wind around 5 miles per hour, becoming calm in the evening. There's a 30% chance of rain. New rainfall amounts of less than 1/10 of an inch. Friday, still a chance of a thunderstorm. Highs around 95. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. Summer's here, and it's time to add to your family. It's time to bring home a dog or cat from Columbia Animal Services. For a fee of only $35, get a new family friend and save an animal at the same time. The fee includes spay and neutering, vaccinations, and an exam from the staff's vet. You can adopt, foster, or just make a donation. Call 776-PETS. That's 776-7387. Or find Columbia Animal Services on social media. Look online at petfinder.com to see them. Now is the time. Adopt, foster, donate. Columbia Animal Services.
You've heard me say it before. I'm not a big fan of the taste of veggies, but I have to admit I know what vegetables do to my system, how healthy it is to be taking fruits and veggies on a daily basis. My friend Dr. Howard at Balance of Nature talks about the colors that we see, the fruits. The colors you see in the produce section equals nutritional variety. Different colors signify different key nutrients. If you eat only your favorite 1 or 2 veggies, you're missing a whole world of vital nutrients. That's why I take 6 little capsules every day, 3 red, 3 green. Every daily dose of Balance of Nature is made up of a blend of 31 different fruits and veggies. 31. Variety equals vitality. Give your body everything it needs with Balance of Nature. Call 800-246-8751. All new preferred customers will get an additional 35% discount and free shipping on your first Balance of Nature order. Call 800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com. Use the discount code BALANCE. That's BALANCE at balanceofnature.com.
Are you looking for free checking and free savings? Dave Ramsey here, telling you to go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank that's so big they lose the ability to treat you like a human being. At Palmetto Citizens, you're not just a number, you're a member. Join today at any of their 14 locations or at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
I'm already a big fan of Medicare Blueprint. Tim and his team saved me several $1,000s. They took a look at my health insurance. They helped me get the best possible plan. But not long ago, I reached out when we had a crisis. The big bad insurance company out of nowhere just canceled Mom's medicine for her multiple sclerosis. No warning, 30 years, same med, and just like that, gone. Here's the good news. Medicare Blueprint doesn't work for the insurance companies. They work for you. They're local. Imagine me trying to get this fixed, calling some national toll-free number. Outsourced operators never talk to the same person twice. Medicare Blueprint went to work, helped me get Mom's meds back, and how's this? Even less expensively than we were paying before. Incredible customer service and local. What a great formula. Oh, and it cost me nothing for their services. Nothing. Whether you're on Medicare or not, my mom is, I'm not. Medicare Blueprint helped both of us. Online, it's MedicareBlueprint.com or call them 708-7398. That's 708-7398.
Enjoy the sounds of summer from Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers.
Cannonball!
Enjoy the taste of summer too, with amazing hand-tossed pies, cool, crisp salads, and over 100 beers from around the world. Mellow Mushroom, in the Vista and on Sunset in Lexington.
Have you fallen behind on your taxes and might be facing IRS penalties? Have wage garnishments, levies, or liens? Have unfiled tax returns? You want someone local and qualified. Don't fall for those national spots. Meet with me, Teresa, at Capital City Professional Services, and let me help you through your tax maze. I can help with all your tax resolution issues. There are options to get you back on track. Call Capital City Professional Services, 400-8683. That's 400-8683.
When you're a military veteran with over 40,000 organizations trying to help you, it can be hard to find the right information. That's why AARP brings together valuable resources to help you navigate your options. AARP.org/veterans. With the free veteran employment and fraud prevention resources, caregiving tools, and access to discounts, AARP, on a mission to support veterans. Visit AARP.org/veterans today.
Back we are on Sports Talk Media Network from Columbia on this Thursday night and from the PD. Good to have you with us, Phil Kornblut, Pat Daniel, and Chris Bergen. We'll catch you up on some other news notes here coming up. We've got recruiting coming up for you as well. MJ Ward, who'll be heading over to the British Open in a couple of weeks. He'll be joining us here after the top of the hour. We'll talk about the latest on the golf scene between the PGA and the Live Tour. And also at 7:30, we'll have the athletics director at Coastal Carolina with us, Matt Hogue. Matt is a member of the baseball selection committee for the NCAA tournament. And so are they pumping? Are they pounding their chest over being smart enough to put Ole Miss in the field at the very tail end of that? Look forward to having him with us a little bit later on. Right now, though, time for another visit with Mike Morgan. Mike Morgan on the Move, brought to you by Gibson Insurance, where you can find former Gamecock players Bo Mobley, Andrew Eister, and Coach Stuart Lake. They want to be your team for all your insurance needs. Very cost-effective solutions for now and long-term. That's what they offer. They're all licensed with every insurance company in South Carolina, so give them a call today. And if you're nice to Andrew, he'll show you how to hit the ball out of the ballpark. 803-605-0029, 803-605-0029. We welcome Mike Morgan into Sports Talk. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Excuse me.
You okay?
Yeah. I was doing fine, and I just choked. The pressure, the pressure of this segment.
Yeah,
it got to me. You know, I was thinking as you were reading. As only you can, the promotion there for Gibson Insurance. 2002 was my first trip to Omaha. 20 years ago, which is kind of scary at the time, has flown by. And Stuart Lake was the assistant coach for South Carolina. He eventually left for Ole Miss with Mike Bianco. Of course, we'll get to them in a second, but people forget Stuart Lake was on Bianco's staff for a while in an expanded role. But I'll never forget going to the Dorley Zoo, the Henry Dorley Zoo. Did you ever go there when you were in Omaha?
You know, you'd see it because it's right next door to Rosenblatt, but I never went over there. But they did have that big globe or something that you could see from way off. That I always thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, you were too busy giving up your kids' college fund at the casinos in Council Bluffs, Iowa. But if you had gone to the zoo,
that's true.
You would have seen Stuart Lake. And Stuart tells the story much better than I can, but basically he is staring in a cage with a gorilla. And the gorilla is staring right back at Stu. And they're having a good old-fashioned stare down. You ever get in a stare down with somebody? It's just, maybe you're in traffic or you're kind of a hothead. You're glaring at them and you're kind of letting them know, like, I'm not giving up my ground. So here's Stuart and here's the ape. The ape and Stewart stare down, back and back. Neither one of them are given an inch. And finally, the ape, in his own way, says, "I've had enough." I know it's close to dinner time, so pardon my French, but he defecates in his hand.
Oh no!
And throws it right towards Stuart Lake. Thankfully, they had protective glass around the cage.
Oh my gosh!
But it hits right about where Stuart's face would be, and the ape just kind of nods his head like, "How do you like me now?" And Stuart says, "It's time to go on to the next exhibit."
Well, now, did Stuart kind of take that as an omen regarding the World Series or his career or anything like that?
Well, if you remember now, that was the team that lost the first game 11-0. So maybe the ape was onto something. The ape or gorilla, I get my primates mixed up.
Right.
he might have been onto something with the first game against Georgia Tech, but after that, you beat Nebraska in front of basically a Nebraska crowd.
Yep.
Then you beat Georgia Tech in the revenge game, and then you beat Clemson twice to get to a national championship game. And back then, you only played one game instead of best of three.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I would say overall that team did very well. I always say without the 02 team, you know, you don't have the national championship teams. That's really when the program took a whole other level, and of course went back to Omaha in 03 and back to Omaha in 04. Won the SEC in 02, won the SEC tournament in 04. But and obviously Stu had a great career as well. In fact, I would say Stuart Lake, if somebody out there wise is listening, hire that man, because he's a terrific assistant coach that players love to play for, and a good recruiter as well. So I want to take him away from Gibson Insurance now.
You don't want to speak for Stuart. I know that you're very close to him, but I mean, did he make a mistake leaving the Charleston Southern job to come to South Carolina to work in the role that he worked in? I mean, was that in hindsight?
Well, you got to remember now, he's very close with his son. His son in Columbia, the family was in Columbia, and I think wanted to stay there. I don't want to speak for Stuart, but and he loves South Carolina. Mm-hmm. I mean, he absolutely adores South Carolina. No offense to Charleston Southern or any other job in the state, but for him, Columbia that's where it was at, and that's where, you know, he'd hope to stay the rest of his career. And, you know, sometimes life throws you a curveball, so we'll see where it goes from there. But I know one thing, you know, when in his 2 stints there, players loved the guy and loved what he brought as a coach as well.
Speaking of curveballs, I mean, Ole Miss threw one at the committee, getting in the last 4, and now they're going to be playing for the national championship. But then again, as Pat pointed out to us off air, they're not the last 4 to get to the championship round.
That's right. Michigan did it just a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if that's who he was referring to.
It was.
Yeah, in 2019, Michigan did it. And that was a team that barely got in. This Ole Miss team was incredibly inconsistent. I'm not entirely sure why. I mean, some of it has to do with injuries, but the rest is kind of puzzling as to how they were as bad as they were at some points during this year. Remember, they barely qualified for the SEC tournament. So it's a great story for Mike Bianco. I don't think it's Mike Bianco's best team, but Dylan DeLucia might be his best pitcher. You look at his 2 starts in Omaha, and they don't get this far without him. He was terrific today. He basically shoved in both starts, and they've ridden him. I mean, they've ridden him to this point. Their offense is good, not great. Tim Elko, everybody knows, is kind of the face of the franchise, but it's a great story. Ole Miss has never won it, and they hadn't been there many times, quite frankly, since 1972, which was the last time they got there before Bianco, and Bianco's only been a couple of times. So I wanted to see. I know Bianco and I know Dave Van Horn, and I have a load of respect for both of them. I wanted to see both of them win, but I'm glad for Bianco and the Ole Miss fan base that the way they support baseball down there, they deserve a run like this.
Yeah. Well, Mike, we can give them both trophies and send them home if you want to, if that's how we feel about
I'm going to see if we can. Yeah, I'm going to see if we can make that happen. I'll make a few phone calls. There's a beautiful trophy shop right near the stadium, and we'll get them some trophies.
Well, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but who do you like? I'm putting you on the line here. Best 2 out of 3, Oklahoma, Ole Miss. Who walks away with the championship?
Well, they're the 2 hottest teams, but Oklahoma, quite frankly, is a little bit hotter. So I'm not going to pretend to know as much about Oklahoma. I do a couple Big 12 games a year. I did not have Oklahoma this year. It's an interesting program. Remember, the last time Oklahoma made it, the Gamecocks were within a strike of losing in 2010 to Oklahoma. And Jackie Bradley took a pitch that was inches off the plate. They wound up coming back and winning, knocked off Oklahoma. Sonny Galloway eventually left for the Auburn job. They couldn't fire him fast enough. He sued the university. I think they settled that out of court. I don't know what Sonny Galloway's doing these days, but my point is Oklahoma baseball was kind of in a rut for about 10 years. And they get back this year, and they've been a great story. So Look, I think it's going to be a great series. I want to know if there's any way DeLucia can pitch again, because he's the key for Ole Miss. And, I guess they get tomorrow off, and then they're back at it Saturday. So, I don't know how fresh DeLucia would be even in a potential game 3. But Oklahoma's probably got a slight edge. I think it'll be a good series, though.
Let me ask you something real quick. Sorry, Chris, before you jump in. You brought up the Jackie Bradley taking that pitch against Oklahoma. If it's called a strike, they lose. It was called a ball, and then he delivers. I mean, history for Gamecock baseball probably changed on that one pitch. Am I overstating the fact?
No, you're not. I mean, it was and I remember, so while that's happening, I had just gotten done calling my very first Major League Baseball series. Don Sutton and I were in Pittsburgh calling a Braves series, and I'm in my rental car, and I picked it up on satellite radio, and I'm listening, and the announcers for Westwood 1 both called that pitch a strike. They basically were saying Bradley was out, and they kind of jumped the gun. And Ray Tanner has told the story that he went up to Jackie and said, "What are you thinking on that pitch?" He said, "Coach, it was outside."
Yeah,
and sure enough, it was. But I mean that team had a lot of magic behind it, and then of course the following team was just an unstoppable force. And they, the records that program set with the streak of postseason wins, I can't remember the exact number. You probably know it. I don't know if we'll ever see that again, quite frankly. But yeah, that was that pitch and that play, the subsequent play for against Oklahoma, you could make the argument completely changed the trajectory of Gamecock baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, is it perhaps karma coming back to actually favor the Gamecocks after the 2000 team? You guys were talking about the 2002 team, but the 2000 team that I think even Ray Tanner would probably tell you was his best ever team, not getting to Omaha because they lost to Louisiana Lafayette in the Super Regionals. Maybe 10 years later, does that actually work back into their favor? And that's why Jackie Bradley takes the ball outside.
Yeah, I mean, all those things I think even out over time. Although I say that, look how long it took Mississippi State to win one. Arkansas still hasn't won one. Sometimes you got to make your own luck. And the 2000 team, I mean, I remember that one like it was yesterday. That was a team that certainly seemed to be destined to go to Omaha and fell just short, much like Tennessee fell short this year, much like Arkansas fell short the year before as the number one team. That all these teams looked like teams that were destined to go. And then here we are talking about teams that barely made the tournament that are all the way in the championship finals. So it is the most unpredictable postseason of the three major sports. College baseball really remains the most unpredictable in terms of once you get to that bracket of 64, it's really hard to pick, who's going to do what from that point on.
Mike Morgan on the move with us here tonight on Sports Talk, recapping and looking forward to the finals of the College World Series. And Mike, sticking with the pitching, we actually got to see a good old-fashioned pitcher's duel today, a 2-hour and 6-minute college baseball game, which is unheard of anymore.
Wow.
But you talk about Ole Miss, and if DeLucia can't come back and pitch for them, this is still a staff that had an ERA, despite their ups and downs, of just over 4. In your mind, do they have enough pitching if they cannot use him to be able to win a 3-game series against Oklahoma?
Was it really 2 hours and 6 minutes?
2:06.
I was not aware of that. That is almost impossible in today's day and age of college baseball. And I think the Omaha TV timeouts might be a little bit longer than what we have in the regular season. My goodness. Again, I'm not sure. I think that in the case, what I'd like to know is how much of Oklahoma's staff is fresh versus. I mean, they obviously had the extra day of rest, so they come in better shape. There's no doubt about it. And DeLucia is the X factor. I can't sit here and tell you I know about Oklahoma's bullpen. I know that Ole Miss's is pretty strong, and I know that Ole Miss has, again, guys like Elko who been there, done that in terms of they've been around the program a long, long time. Elko feels like he's been there 17 years. And so, they've got some intangibles. Oklahoma probably has the edge right now, but I hope it's going to be a good series.
And speaking of the speed of the game, it's surprising the time, the length of the game, or that Dylan DeLucia actually threw a complete game today. Pitched all 9 innings, no runs, 4 hits, 7 strikeouts. That may be even more unheard of in today's college baseball, right?
It's rare. And again, it's not like Arkansas has never seen them before. So usually when you've got a team that's that familiar with them, even if it is a dominating pitcher, you're able to do something. They clearly were not. That lineup that was up and down all year long. I had them in the Super, and those were very competitive, lower scoring games, but their pitching was just good enough. So, but to me, honestly, the bigger number is still 2 hours and 6 minutes. I would have killed for a 2 hour and 6 minute game any point in the last 10 years. I've had nothing even coming close to that. Not even close.
Last thing, we'll let you go. Braves won today over the Giants, 7-6. Couple of home runs for Dansby Swanson. So they have put together a nice run here. I think 18 of their last 21. They've closed within 4 of the Mets. Your prediction, the date in July, if not sooner. Yeah, it could happen in June. But in July, your prediction on when the Braves will zoom past the Mets.
I don't think they will. I think the Braves are going to be a wild card team.
Is
that a controversial take? Have you seen the Mets play?
That's called a hot take. I call that a hot take.
Okay, sure. We'll call that a lukewarm take. I think the Mets. Remember now, they're still going to get Max Scherzer back. They've battled some injuries on the mound, but I think top to bottom, their roster is more complete. I think Atlanta has finally come around to form, playing much better baseball than they were at the start. But I think it's going to be a competitive race. But I would give the Mets the edge. I mean, heck, Phil, you should be pulling for a Subway Series.
All for it.
Mr. Being Yankee, right?
All for it, man. I got no problem with that. All for it.
Yeah, well, we might be heading that way.
Mike, been a pleasure.
Same here, guys.
Talk
you guys
to you.
have a terrific, productive weekend.
Hope your air conditioning doesn't break. Stay cool.
So do I.
All right, guys. See you, Mike Morgan. Morgan on the Move. Brought to you by Gibson Insurance right here. I'd like to say exclusively, but Mike appears on like 75 shows around the state of South Carolina on a pretty regular
tells
basis.
Stories like the Stuart Lake story on any other show, then he deserves to be on as many radio shows as possible.
That
was tremendous.
Tremendous. All right, we'll come back from the break and see if we can squeeze in the Ray Tanner and Dawn Staley comments. Can we do that, Pat? If we can, we'll do it after the break. Be back in a moment.
There was just a lack of Black women, business owners, entrepreneurs, creatives. Growing up, I didn't see that. I figured out that I wanted to be a photographer for women of color. I found my niche and I'm sticking to it.
Each year, the South Carolina Education Lottery raises millions of dollars for scholarships and grants that help students prepare for their dream career. Just like Kristen, your passion is our purpose.
Show your team pride wherever you go with Founders Federal Credit Union's collegiate debit cards. Get your University of South Carolina and Clemson University debit cards at any Founders office or by calling 1-800-845-1614. Plus, our debit cards are digital wallet ready, so you can pay however you please. Not a member? Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
Peanuts and baseball, the perfect pair. There's nothing better than enjoying a bag of crunchy, great-tasting in-shell peanuts washed down with your favorite beverage of choice while cheering on your baseball team. This summer, grab a bag or two of delicious protein-packed Virginia Carolina's grown in-shell peanuts. America's favorite snack and America's favorite sport. A match sure to please. This message is brought to you by Virginia Carolina's peanut farmers. To learn more about peanuts, visit the website aboutpeanuts.com. That's right, aboutpeanuts.com. Enjoy a bag of peanuts today.
All right, here's Ray Tanner earlier today outside the Colonial Life Arena talking about one of his favorite coaches, Dawn Staley.
14 seasons that Coach Staley's been here. She's taken her team to 4 NCAA Final Fours and been ranked in the AP Top 25 every week since December 10th of 2012, including 44 weeks at number 1. Her teams have won 6 regular season championships and 6 tournament championships. The team we're celebrating here today, she led her team to a record-setting 35 wins, which includes 14 over our nationally ranked opponents. I do remember asking her at the beginning of the year, who did your schedule? I thought it was quite difficult, but she certainly handled it. We also led the nation in scoring margin, rebound margin, block shots per game, and winning percentage. In addition to all the on-court success, Coach Staley is a champion of bringing people together, uniting a community, and building a fan base that we can call the fan base if we would like. Her team also has led the nation in average attendance for the last 8 years, and it hasn't been close. Our fans and our fams are drawn to her and her team and her coaching staff, the authenticity and how she connects with them individually and as a group throughout all of her 14 years. The passion and diversity of this fan base is what makes having this signage all around our state so very important. On behalf of Coach Staley, her staff, and her players, Dr. Pastides, and our incoming president, Dr. Michael Amaritas, I want to thank the South Carolina Department of Transportation for giving us this opportunity to share the celebration of Dawn Staley's program with every South Carolinian and all the visitors that come to our great state.
All right, and here's Dawn Staley with a statement and then answering some questions.
I was at a screening of our Dream On 30 for 30 docuseries. And I was on a panel right afterwards, and they said it was the first time that of all of women's basketball that there was a multi-episode docuseries. And everybody was applauding like it was a beautiful thing. And I'm sitting back like it's 2022. And, you know, there isn't anything any sport has done in women's sports that will showcase more than a 30-minute or a 60-minute show. And I guess not, but I'm sure there are going to be more to follow up. So for us to not have to say this is the first time that this has happened will be great over the next 50 years. I mean, we just had a workout today, and Aaliyah Boston texted me maybe a few hours after the workout, and she was like, "We're going to be really good." And I'm like, "You got all of that from today's practice?" Like, and she was like, "No, I mean, this is exact words. She said, no, we got everybody back, and she said, Ashlyn Watkins is really good. Like, she actually used the expletive, and she doesn't usually do that. And she apologized for using it in the text message, but she said she's really good. And for our nation's National Player of the Year to say that, if she believes it, I'm going to believe it. We're going to pour into each other, and hopefully this takes place again. Okay, somebody just told me this. There are 15, right? And then they're at every welcome center, into the state. And I didn't hear anything after that. So if somebody else could help us out. Is that where? All the main highways into the state. Okay, so I'm not going to take the street anymore. I'm going to take the highway just so I can see the signs. Yeah, Coach Tanner has done a great job of securing that, no one's going to come after me. by doing something that no other school has done. So I am very comfortable here. We got a great team, and I have no part of me wants to be a part of an NBA franchise in that way. Maybe ownership. Anybody looking for a little ownership? I would do that in a heartbeat.
All right, Don Staley, we'll be back.
Someone will be right with you.
The point. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces, summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. A major victory for gun rights advocates today as the Supreme Court struck down a New York state law that requires people to demonstrate a particular need for carrying a gun in order to get a license to carry a gun in a concealed way in public. Eric Pratt, who's Senior Vice President of Gun Owners of America, says the limit in New York violated the Second Amendment.
If you are a law-abiding citizen, you shouldn't have to clear an extra high hurdle that says my life is somehow in extreme danger more so than the average person, which is what New York was requiring of people and what 8 other states do.
Justice Clarence Thomas wrote the opinion in the 6-3 decision.
I'm Greg Clugston at the White House, where President Biden says he's deeply disappointed by the Supreme Court's ruling that likely will allow more people to legally carry guns. The president argues that it contradicts both common sense and the Constitution. In light of the recent deadly mass shootings, Mr. Biden says we must do more as a society, not less, to protect our fellow Americans.
Federal agents have searched the Virginia home of a Trump-era Justice Department official who championed efforts by President Trump to overturn the results of the 2020 election. That's according to a person familiar with the matter. Separately, a spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington confirmed the existence of law enforcement activity in Lorton, Virginia, where Jeffrey Clark lives, but would not elaborate on the purpose. Clark's role in the run-up to the January 6th riot at the Capitol is being featured prominently today at the House hearing investigating the riot. President Trump has called the hearings a witch hunt. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 194 points, the Nasdaq rose 179, the S&P advanced 35. More on these stories at townhall.com.
First, we decide where we want to go. Then we need to know the best way to get there. Hi, my name is Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold. We're the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. We teach people how to own physical gold and silver. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest #1 national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Get the best information, the best process, the best service, the best value. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
The FDA has banned Juul e-cigarettes.
Health officials have ordered vaping company Juul to pull its electronic cigarettes from the U.S. market. It's the biggest blow yet to the embattled company that is widely blamed for sparking a surge in teen vaping. The announcement by the FDA is part of a sweeping regulatory review of e-cigs, which faced little regulation until recently. Since last fall, the FDA had okayed a few e-cigs that account for a very small share of the vaping market. To stay on the shelves, manufacturers must show their products help reduce the harm of smoking for adults without appealing to kids. I'm Shelley Adler.
The nation's 33 biggest banks have enough capital to withstand a severe economic contraction. That's according to the Federal Reserve's latest annual stress tests of the U.S. financial system. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. A chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly before 7 p.m. Partly cloudy with a low around 71. Northeast wind around 5 miles per hour, becoming calm in the evening. There's a 30% chance of rain. New rainfall amounts of less than 1/10 of an inch. Friday, still a chance of a thunderstorm. Highs around 95. I'm Brian Leonard with your on-point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. Ooh, you shouldn't have pressed that button. Oh. Now you get this.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Okay, we're back with you here on Sports Talk Media Network. Glad you're with us wherever you're dialed in around the state of South Carolina. If you want to join us, got some time for your phone calls. 888-898-2525 is the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Here on Sports Talk, we are hoping to catch up with our man MJ Ward here. We communicated some yesterday about him joining us tonight. Hopefully we'll connect with him here in just a little bit to talk about all these major developments in the golf world over the last 48 hours. We do have today the Travelers first round being played. We'll update that leaderboard for you in just a moment, especially taking a look at how some of the locals are doing. But before we do that, Chris, I know you wanted to jump into the fact that today is the day of celebration for Title IX. 50 years ago, that went into law around this country, opening the door for women to participate in sports on an equal level as the men. And, a lot of people, when that went down 50 years ago, thought it would be the end of sports as we know it. It was going to crush the men's side and take away things from the men and cost too much money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, the women still have a long ways to go in some ways, in some areas, but they have come a very, very long way from an athletic standpoint. And it really hasn't, for the most part, damaged the male side of things. There's been some men's sports done away with. We were talking about college. There's been some men's sports done away with because of the rules, the law that you got to have the same number of scholarships / opportunities for the women as for the men. So to make that happen, schools eliminated some men's programs and they added some women's programs.
And I think Matt Hogue would be a perfect candidate to chat when he joins us after 7:30 as an athletics director dealing with this. But I think in some regards, it's as important to college athletics as integration was. Because and it's funny to me that we're sitting here 50 years since that law went into effect. And Phil, in your mind, and this is what I really wanted to explore more so than the celebration, which it deserves. And obviously with South Carolina today getting its national championship signs, I'd be curious your opinion. 50 years hence, if that law had not gone into effect, do we have women's college athletics? Did it take federal legislation to force the good old boy network, if you will, us men, to realize that the girls can participate and play and deserve those opportunities as well? Or would that have just organically come about where we would still have women's sports in college athletics, if not for the legislation? Do you think that was what pushed it forward, or would we have eventually gotten to this point? Maybe not as far down the road as we are 50 years hence, but would we have gotten to this point otherwise?
I don't think so.
I think you're right.
I don't think that would have been the case. I think that it had to be forced on the men. It had to be forced on the men in charge, the presidents, the athletics directors, and all that. I mean, keep in mind too, I guess back then, 50 years ago, did you have any women who were presidents of major universities? Did you have any women who were athletic directors at major universities? I mean, you've got that now. So I don't think you had women really in positions of power to make the change. It was all men. And, let's face it, they weren't real kind to the women in a lot of ways back then. So, no, I don't think it would have happened without this legislation.
And that's a shame, isn't it? And I think you're 100% correct. We may have ultimately gotten to a point where you may have a women's basketball team at your campus, but I can't imagine it would be as funded as it is now. I can't imagine you would have 10, to 15,000 people showing up on a Wednesday night to go watch South Carolina women's basketball if they were not giving the same opportunities that the men's team is afforded as well. And it pains me a little bit that here I said, I was 2 when this legislation went into place. And actually, not even 2. I was still 1 year old, and I find it fascinating that I think you're 100% correct that we may not even be where we are today, if not for federal legislation. And I'm thinking the same thing as I mentioned at the outset. I think integration into schools had to be forced on our society as well. And look how well that has worked out over the years. Do we have problems? Sure, we do. But federal legislation, there are certain things that the federal government does well. And I've got to give them kudos on this, because I'm not sure we would be anywhere close to the opportunities for young ladies to go out and play softball and baseball, softball and basketball and volleyball if this legislation had not gone into place. I think it is a historic day, not just a day to be celebrated. I think it is a historic day. As a matter of fact, I just saw ESPN's coverage of the NBA draft tonight. They're going to, for the first time ever, have a female anchor handle the draft. We would have never had that, I don't think, 20 years ago, much less today, if not for Title IX being implemented.
Well, and it was a perfect day for South Carolina to unveil these signs honoring the women's basketball program. In fact, I saw one of them is already up. I guess all around the state they went up today, I guess, as you're coming off of I-20 in Columbia, merging on to the ramp to get on 277 to go down to downtown Columbia. There's a sign sitting right there in all its glory. And so I jokingly said to the state transportation director, who is an avid Clemson fan, a graduate and a big-time avid Clemson fan, but a supporter of USC women's basketball. She was walking away from the podium. I said, where are you going to put the Clemson soccer national championship sign? Is that going to go behind or in front of the USC women's basketball sign? And think about this, Chris, for this year. If you want to honor everybody, I mean, I've seen signs for the Clemson soccer team. That's already been up, I believe. I've seen those. Then you've got the North Greenville University baseball team, Division II national champs. Where those go up, when and where. And you've got the South Carolina State football team that won the HBCU national championship. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess, are they being honored with signs around the state? And do you put them, how do you stack them up? You got one after another. I could see Willie Jeffries and Buddy Pugh taking their sign and sticking it in front of the South Carolina sign and blocking it, on the interstates on I-26 or so. But yeah, we had a lot to be proud about this year.
No doubt.
Athletically in the state of South Carolina, when you think about 4 national championships to be observed. So that's great. That's great. Nothing wrong with winning. The fun is definitely in the winning. Any luck with MJ? Did we strike out? Did we swing and miss? Did we shank it?
As of right now, we a bit of a swing and a miss. I've reached out to him. Everything but carrier pigeon at this point. I've emailed, called, texted.
Yeah.
It looks like we will not be having him tonight, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I at first said, nah, let's pass on it. Then I thought about it and said, yeah, let's do it. And I re-emailed him. And sometimes I guess he doesn't get the email. So that's okay. Now we'll get him another time. As for today's opening round of the Travelers Championship in Cromwell, Connecticut, you've got, so there he is again, Rory. Rory is, ever since he spoke out about the Live Tour versus the PGA Tour and sticking with the PGA Tour and kind of becoming America's darling, those who want to support the PGA Tour, he's played some great golf, a 62 today, along with JT Poston, and they are at 8 under par. That's some good playing. Another par 70 course here, 8 under par 62. And then Xander Schauffele, 7 under 63, along with Martin Laird. And then at 6 under 64, Charles Howell III, along with Webb Simpson and Patrick Cantlay. So this course is there for the taking, apparently. Matthew Neesmith, there he is once again, the former Gamecock, made a good showing at the Open. Good showing today, 5 under 65. Also, Wofford's William McGirt is right there at 4 under 66. And some others, Kevin Kisner, a 3 under 67. Looks like everybody is going to get paid this weekend. Doc Redman, 1 under 69. Lucas Glover, even par 70. Bill Haas, a 2 over 72. Andrew Novak, a 2 over 72. And some others, Ricky Fowler, +2. Jason Day, +4. And Jordan Spieth, +575. So there you go. Some of the highlights from the opening round of the Travelers Championship. And, I was talking with somebody today.
Weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be wild next week with the Portland event, the Live tournament. And
and I was just thinking the majority of the PGA Tour players, since they're not playing a Live Tour, they are not going to be participating in the John Deere Classic nor the Barbasol Championship. They're going to be over in Scotland getting ready for the 150th edition of the Open Championship. So enjoy these guys like Rory and them this weekend, because you'll not see them participating, I wouldn't think, for the next couple of weeks.
Yes, good point.
Before the Open.
Good point. And was that quote accurate that I saw tweeted out yesterday by yesterday or 2 days ago by what's his face? Who's the guy just jumped over to the Live Tour?
Brooks Koepka.
Yeah, Koepka.
Joining his brother.
Yeah. Did you see the quote attributed to him? It was under his face, under his picture, where he said, basically, why should I care about playing in the John Deere Classic? That sort of thing. He used a different word, of course. He was much more vulgar than that. But that to me is shows a lack of appreciation. So it's a John Deere Classic, okay? It still pays $1 million something to win, I believe, and very well. Pays very well up and down those who finish well enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, guy. All these other, he could have easily have spit out the RBC Heritage. Why should I give
you're right.
a dang about playing in the RBC? Well, you know what? The people that support those events care. The charities that receive the money from the PGA Tour care. And you should care because you're a professional golfer, and the PGA gave you the opportunity to become rich beyond your wildest dreams.
And Phil, it's
so that's just
same...
a very, very snobbish, very, very poor sportsmanship approach to things, as you walk out the door of the PGA. And it wouldn't bother me one bit. Here was the thing I wanted to ask MJ today. As this war rages on now between the PGA and the Live Golf people, it's not going to, suspending them from the PGA is only going to maybe hurt their pride a little bit, and it's only going to maybe rally some people against him. It will really hurt them if those who run the majors say no PGA Tour membership, no invitation to the majors. Now the Masters, now the problem you run into,
you can't do that with the U.S. Open and the British Open unless you totally change the way your tournament is set up.
Well, you would have to. You'd also have to
become the, you'd have to become the U.S. golf tournament and the golf tournament, because you cannot call yourself an Open if you restrict who can get in there if they qualify.
Yeah. Well, I understand that. I'm just speaking out loud here. I'm just speaking out loud.
I understand.
Now, I saw where the Royal and Ancient came out and said that these guys can play in the British Open this year. But I'm just thinking out loud. Look, everything is changing. So, if these guys are going to be playing 54 holes and shotgun starts and really screwing with the game of golf that way, then why can't the majors say, screw you, we don't want you, and here's our new rules? I mean, they're making up their rules and playing by their rules. Why
certainly can.
Now I understand what you're saying, and then again, it goes back to the part about the having won your way into these tournaments. What's the word I'm looking for? Having
having qualified.
Well, that's not the word. What's the word I'm looking for? You've earned as a golfer, like you've won the Masters, so you have like the exemptions, having the exemptions. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
Well, and if you want one tournament,
I understand how you have to deal with that kind of stuff. But I mean, if the people who run the majors don't like the fact that Saudi Arabia is buying golf and buying these golfers, and they really want to make it sting, then they have to do something. Because those golfers don't care about they don't care about anything else other than because they can go make their fortune. Then all they care about is winning the majors. And that's not what golf is supposed to be. is supposed to be about.
I can throw that argument right back at you with college basketball, and it's the exact same thing. College basketball has made the NCAA tournament the be-all, end-all, and so no one cares about the regular season. No one cares about the John Deere Classic of college basketball. Same thing is true now. We've made the majors so important in golf that no one cares. At least the players, they view it as, I'll go play at the Players Championship, and I may go out to Pebble Beach because I love that golf course and a couple of other tournaments. But for the most part, as long as I can play in the majors and then I can go over to Saudi Arabia and make $1 billion, what difference does it make? You really want to sting these guys. Go tell, if you can get the Masters on board, and the Masters would be the one to come out and say, unless you have a PGA Tour card, you are not eligible to qualify to play in our tournament. That would change a lot of minds.
Yeah.
Because every single one of them wants to participate in the Masters.
We got
and
to
if
jump
you took
to
that
MJ.
away from them.
MJ's jumped in on us here. You mind if we jump to MJ?
No.
Yeah. Most people, when we say MJ, they think, oh, he's got Michael Jordan on the show. No. We have MJ, Matt Ward, international golf journalist of acclaim, here on Sports Talk. We got to squeeze you in here in about 10 minutes, so it's good to have you. Maybe you picked up a little bit on our conversation there. Do you think there's any chance, any possibility that the majors will rise together and change their criteria for allowing you in, such that if you are not a member of the PGA Tour and you're playing in the Live Golf Tour, that they can block you from playing in the majors?
Well, let's break that down by the specific major. If you're talking the Masters, it's an invitational, as it always is. So, clearly one of the most must-see events of all time will be when Fred Ridley decides to have a press conference on this, if they go that route. But the Masters would be probably a prime candidate for that. The two difficult ones on the major championship side is the precedent that would be set with the U.S. Open and the Open Championship, because the very word open is in the tagline. And if you come forward, yes, it's a very plausible argument that one can make about where the money's coming from in Saudi Arabia. But the premise of both Opens has been that if you have the handicap requirement and you can pay the entry fee, and if you do happen to qualify, you will get to go to those events. Now, that doesn't mean to say that there could be a change of plan here. Mike Wan indicated that during his press conferences at last week's U.S. Open at the Country Club. So it's very possible that will happen. But, that's not going to happen. Martin Slumbers has just come out from the RNA, and they've said, look, this is the Open Championship, and we will follow through on maintaining that. And, of course, the last thing that the Open Championship wants to do is to throw its 150th celebration at the Old Course into press conferences that are going to be talking about Live or whatever. I mean, they're going to inevitably, those questions will come up, but I know that they would like to, certainly do what the USGA did for this year. What will happen next year is anybody's guess in terms of how that will take place. But the Masters, certainly as an invitational, can do however it sees fit, and they can change those guidelines, including ruling out past green jacket winners. So if you happen to be Dustin Johnson, I wouldn't say you can book your Augusta visit, at this moment. And then the PGA Championship is in a different realm as well, because this is an event that is geared towards having a connection to the PGA of America. Tour players get that when they remain tour players. When there are no longer tour players, then what Seth Watt had indicated was you would not be welcome to be part of that or part of the Ryder Cup. So I think it'll be interesting to see. The Masters is a very big deal because of the global recognition that it has. And obviously when Fred Ridley speaks, each word that he says will literally be parsed for any meaning and secondary meanings that he has, that he says on these matters. Simple as that.
After seeing the letter written last night by the survivors of family members injured or killed in 9/11, I don't know how any of these players can go and play on this tour in good conscience. I mean, how can you read that letter from those family members and go and play and accept that money? Now, I know we're all speaking, we're speaking for somebody else. I mean, I'm speaking for somebody else. I'm not in their shoes. I'm not in their families, and I'm just sitting here as an outsider. And I watched that being read last night on television and discussed. And I thought to myself, I mean, how can these guys go and play? Those are your employers now. I mean, you're playing for the Saudi government. That's who pays you. I mean,
Well, I think
how can
Phil,
you go and do that?
Yeah, I think, Phil, this goes a little bit beyond just the Saudis for the moment. I mean, the PGA Tour and they've had events in China. Let's not forget Tiananmen Square. I mean, we can go through this whole list of things that have happened in the political world over the God knows how many years that have happened, and with whatever the regimes or the autocratic governments are, and where the monies come from. I mean, the NBA was in China. You know, I mean, I've mentioned this to you. I know you know the story. The former general manager of the Rockets comes up and he puts a tweet on and he says, "Hey, I'm with the people in Hong Kong." And then China just says, "Hey, we turned the switch off of the NBA." And then, there were, and I'm going to be very clear about this. I mean, LeBron James was called to task because he was mentioning how important Black Lives Matter is. But when it came to the Chinese situation and because of financial interests that are there, they were not as quick to say, the same thing about what was taking place in terms of how the put down was in Hong Kong. So, I mean, I think the PGA Tour, they've had their issues in allowing players to play in Saudi Arabia as early as this past February when this happened. So, the LIV situation has crystallized moments because the bulk of the people who were involved in the 9/11 attack were from Saudi Arabia. So that crystallizes it. And no question, the letter that was read and how Mickelson had to respond to that at last Monday's press conference at the country club was clearly something that, Phil was going to get hit with. And even though he may have been prepared for that, when you're sitting in front of people and you're going to have to be able to know exactly what to say, it hit home. Now, that doesn't mean to say that he's going to change his mind. I mean, if he's getting still $200 million, he has probably made some kind of mental, verbal gymnastics in his own mind about how that's tolerable as a professional athlete, as a professional golfer. But the reality is the tour has had business relationships that they've had in the past. And this situation about how this is all going to get played out is a broader issue for not just professional golf, but for professional sports in general. The Beijing Olympics were nothing more than basically a promotional vehicle for the Communist Party in China to show itself. I mean, this is an ongoing situation that sports are going to have to come up with. Monahan is trying to deal with the flash fire that he has right now in potentially losing elite players. And that's what you saw that came out of Wednesday's press conference with him, is how to create a structure so he doesn't get more people looking to bail for the reasons that they're looking for, which is I can make more money and play less golf without a cut. That's what the attraction is. But at the end of the day, what you folks were just talking about as I came on with you, the major championships are the ultimate determination in terms of whether LIV will fail or whether it will succeed. And Fred Ridley and Mike Wan and Seth Waugh and Martin Slumbers, they are the key players. And if they do not allow those players to play, if they create a criteria that says you cannot play for whatever the reasons are, well, then, some of those players are going to have to start thinking about, the legacy that comes with it. Because when you win a major championship, you have put yourself in an entirely different position. One can only see that the most dramatically with Hideki Matsuyama when he won the Masters. He comes home to his country. He is on the level of Sadahara O, Hideki Matsui. I mean, you can name any of the athletes that have come out of Japan that have done superbly on the world stage. He was a rock star because of the Masters title that he won. And the same thing happened to Adam Scott when he became the first Australian to win the Masters several years before that. So we'll see how this plays out. The majors are the big item that has to be resolved.
Real quick. We got about a minute and a half with you. Could not the majors get together and say, look, you can only play in these events if you're receiving world golf points. And I mean, if you're playing on the live tour, the LIV tour. I keep saying live. The LIV tour. I mean, you're not getting any world golf points. So could they not come together and say, look, you have to be playing in events where you're getting world golf points to be eligible to compete. Even if to qualify, you still have to be getting competing in events that give you world golf points to be eligible to play.
And to answer this quickly, I know we'll talk about it again at some point, but to suffice to say is Greg Norman, when he came out, he said, hey, look, we're going to be putting forward a plan to get sanctioned for world ranking points. But his big issue was, I don't want Jay Monahan, who's a member of the committee that votes on these issues, I don't want him sitting on it because he's already come out with an opinion when he had his interview with Jim Nance a few weeks back. So the reality is, yes, the world ranking points are a necessity, because without that, that's the portal in which you go through as a player to play in the major championships. And if there's no world ranking points, just about 90% of the players will be impacted by that unless you're a past winner of that event. But at the end of the day, the Opens are going to be the major ones that are going to have to make a claim here. And I would dare say when the Opens come back with any criteria, that you would probably see litigation coming forward, because that's how they would play this out.
We will talk to you from across the pond there in a couple of weeks, sir. Thank you for joining us. Have a great 4th of July holiday and everything else. We appreciate you being with us.
Hey guys, just remember, MJ, if you ever find out his bank account, don't tell my wife, okay? She hates me with it.
All right, we'll be back.
Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. A chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly before 7 p.m., partly cloudy with a low around 71. Northeast wind around 5 miles per hour, becoming calm in the evening. There's a 30% chance of rain. New rainfall amounts of less than 1/10 of an inch. Friday, still a chance of a thunderstorm. Highs around 95. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Have you fallen behind on your taxes and might be facing IRS penalties? Have wage garnishments, levies, or liens? Have unfiled tax returns? You want someone local and qualified. Don't fall for those national spots. Meet with me, Teresa, at Capital City Professional Services, and let me help you through your tax maze. I can help with all your tax resolution issues. There are options to get you back on track. Call Capital City Professional Services, 400-8683. That's 400-8683.
United We Pledge has partnered with Balance of Nature to help ensure traditional American freedoms exist for us and for future generations. United We Pledge is raising money to build an American Village West campus that will house replicas of key historic buildings and realistic portrayals of the men and women who helped shape this nation. This village will provide educational experiences for youth and families. To raise funds and bring awareness to this project, world record holding endurance athlete Tom Jones is running 76 consecutive marathons from the original American Village in Alabama to the future home of the American Village West in Washington County, Utah. He will be powered by Balance of Nature fruits and veggies. Balance of Nature is proud to provide fruits and veggies in a Patriot Pack for a limited time to support this effort. A portion of the proceeds from each Patriot Pack will go directly to United We Pledge to help build this project. Use promo code VILLAGE to receive 35% off your first preferred order. Go to buypatriotpack.com to start your pledge to help preserve the freedoms we value.
If you're an avid shooter or you're new to shooting, Shooter's Choice is your paradise. A firearms specialty store with all types of firearms, ammunition, accessories, AR platform rifles, shotguns, hunting rifles, and much more. Shooter's Choice has the largest and best selection of firearms in the area. Shooter's Choice is the oldest, the most professional firearms dealer in the Midlands. They've served us for more than 30 years. Family owned, they've never let themselves lose that hometown feel. You go into Shooter's Choice, you'll get experts who hunt and shoot. It's not like some big box store. Their staff has decades of experience. You just won't get this anywhere else. From the classics to the newest cutting-edge products anywhere in the firearms world, they buy, sell, and trade firearms. They have an indoor firing range for handguns and hunting rifles. If you don't want to spend the gas money, hop on ShootersChoiceSC.com and shop online 24/7. Whatever you choose, Shooter's Choice will make it easy on you. In West Columbia at 944 Sunset Boulevard or online, ShootersChoiceSC.com. Make it your first choice. Your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Everyone knows that here at The Point, we are all about supporting local businesses. We are all about local, local, local. You cannot get more local than my friend Greg McCoy and his business, Simplified Mortgage Solutions. Fran Halloran here. If you're buying a home or you're looking to refinance your current home, you owe it to yourself to call Greg. He is the real deal. You can expect Greg to treat you like you are his only client. You can expect Greg to scour the market to find you the best rate available. You can expect Greg to charge you a fair price for his work and his service. Why would you deal with some national company headquartered in who knows where when you can do business with Greg? Need further persuasion? Okay, I didn't even mention the good Greg does in our community by supporting local charities like Blue Star Mothers and Camp Chemo. Come on, you need to call Greg. Online at simplifiedmortgagesc.com, or you can call Greg at 803-722-6044. That's 722-6044.
You know what? I get asked every now and then, Kev, when you say my guy, do you really have a my guy at Palmetto Exterminators? I really do. Ron Byers is my guy. Do you realize I've been a customer of Palmetto Exterminators for 20 years this summer. That's over the course of 3 homes, longer than my kids have been around. I'm loyal to Palmetto Exterminators for several reasons. First, they do a phenomenal job with pest control for a very fair price. It's just not a concern around my home. They take care of everything from regular visits to termite inspection, mosquito care. This is a company that's been around for more than 60 years serving the Midlands. When they come around, they're clean, they're courteous, and they're on time. Look, it's not just me. When it comes to things like those pesky mosquitoes, Palmetto Exterminators voted Best of Columbia in Columbia Metropolitan for their mosquito control. I could have told you that before anyone even voted. What else can you possibly need from your pest control company? If you're looking for someone to help you, look no further than my guy, Ron Byers, Palmetto Exterminators. Online, it's palmettoexterminators.net or call them 254-5833, 254-5833.
All right, we are back here on Sports Talk Media Network. Thanks to MJ Ward for being with us to talk a little bit about the golf situation happening nationally and internationally as well. Something to keep a close watch on moving forward. We told
it's
you,
nice of him to validate my opinion on the world of golf as well.
which was
I
what?
appreciate basically what I told you. The Masters would be the linchpin in all of this, and the Opens can't change who they are without major upheaval.
Right. I still like my idea. You have to earn points in the golf world rankings to be eligible to play in the tournament. Just how about that? That's a simple way to do it. And if you're not playing in events that award world ranking points, then you can't play in the majors. That would force their hands.
Idea on the surface,
would force their hands.
But how many of these top-notch players are you going to take out of the majors before people stop having interest in them?
Oh, I think. Well, look. I mean, in the years that Tiger Woods has not been able to play, or Phil Mickelson, or a few other elite, there's still big interest in the majors because that's what makes the majors the majors. You know, is it the player that makes the majors or the majors that makes the player?
My point. We have made those much like the NCAA men's basketball tournament. It is the be all end all of that season.
Matt Hogue has never played in a major, I don't think. Not that I'm aware of. You know, he plays the course right there at Coastal Carolina and probably hits a nice little on that road hole that I always see going down 544 that bends hard to the right. I'm sure he's got that down perfectly when he's out there on the golf course. The athletics director at Coastal Carolina, Matt Hogue, joining us here on Sports Talk himself, a former Sports Talk show host, Chris. So there's hope for all of us to reach greatness, as Matt has, an award-winning athletics director at Coastal Carolina and a member of the NCAA Baseball Tournament Selection Committee. Just back from Omaha. Hello, sir. Great to have you with us.
Guys, always a pleasure to talk with you. I was a host back when we still used carts and strings and empty bean cans to make all of that work.
Well, you'll also be honored to know that in this particular position, when we used to have an expert on to analyze the World Series, it was Ray Tanner back in the day because he was on the committee. And, of course, he's got a couple of rings from Omaha as well. So, you've kind of stepped up and supplanted him on our list of important people.
Well, I don't think I can supplant his knowledge of baseball. That's for sure. But I tried to do the best I could to represent Coastal in our conference.
Well, you did a great job. I mean, we were talking about this earlier after Ole Miss won today to make it to the championship series against Oklahoma and being one of the last 4 in. I mean, how do you committee people feel about that when you took a team as one of the last 4 in, as acknowledged by the committee, and they rise up and make it all the way to the championship series?
Well, you always, feel like going into it that you want to come out with the best outcome. And, certainly there's always going to be issues that people don't agree with, and some maybe they do. That's kind of the nature of how the work goes. But that was definitely a school that, the committee felt was strong and deserved entry into the field. And I think anytime you can see that, be justified, I think always helps verify what you did, because you do spend a lot of time and a lot of effort deliberating over decisions. Chairman Mike Buddy, does a great job as the AD up in Army, former Major League pitcher in his own right, described a lot of that on Selection Day. And so when it works out like that, certainly I think there's a lot of validation to the work that you put in. And, Oklahoma was another team certainly that was going to be in the field, but was playing very, very well down the stretch. And I know there was a lot of feeling that they were a team to watch as they got into the regionals, and they proved it going on the road and winning, and then working their way all the way to Omaha, and now they're in the championship series.
Sure. You were out there for 6 days, so you watched a lot of it. And, I mean, we have not had a lot of dramatic baseball until last night. Had a really good game last night. And then again today, a real quick game and dramatic game with the way it finished up. Any sense of disappointment in the World Series because most of the games have been so one-sided with very few down-to-the-wire finishes?
I don't know that it would be too disappointing, Phil. It's an event that has such an energy to itself, and even while we were there, you did have some games that got away. The very first game, Oklahoma kind of jumped all over Texas A&M to start things off last Thursday, and ended up winning 13-8, and sort of an old school Rosenblatt type slugfest, really. The way that game turned out, you had a couple of others like that. But I think the thing that I noticed this year is it was finally you got back to normal with the College World Series. It was hosted last year, and the stands were full last year, but it wasn't the same vibe when you're down on the field during batting practice, during infield. The media was able to move around again, and you just had a lot more energy. You're seeing folks, you're talking baseball, pre-game and in between games. And that was something we really didn't have last year. Everything was still very much controlled because of the COVID protocols, as everyone is fully aware of what happened a year ago. So that was the one thing that was really encouraging for me, and I think really made it an enjoyable experience, as you had a chance to actually start commiserating with folks and spending time talking with everyone. And getting that full energy back to the event. But you guys know, you've been there, Phil. You've covered so many of these World Series through the years. The way the city of Omaha embraces that event and really takes ownership in it is unlike really maybe any other sporting area in the country for a 2-week period. And they've had tremendous crowds in the past week to show that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how'd you see the crowds? Were they as lively as ever? Did they have the beach balls going in the outfield and all the campers outside surrounding well, maybe not like it was at Rosenblatt, but in the parking lots and just the big party atmosphere that normally accompanies the World Series?
No question. Back in full force. A larger fan fest, and that was back into play this year, which last year could not be held. The crowds were tremendous. 25,000 was kind of the regular number of those first few days. And there's no doubt when you see these two programs that are in the final series that they'll ramp that up as we get into the weekend for sure. But, the atmosphere, the smells, walking from the hotel down the hill to the stadium every day to go fulfill my responsibilities, you have to be real careful that you're not sampling everything that you pass on the way to the field. So it was definitely the College World Series back to 100%.
Matt Hogue, Athletics Director at Coastal Carolina University, with us here tonight on Sports Talk. Also a member of the D1 Baseball Selection Committee, joining us to chat about the College World Series. And Phil, you forgot to congratulate Matt on being a TV star. I was watching the game on Friday, and they go to instant replay, and who's in the front row of the seats but Matt in the background. So, Matt, I'll ask you instant replay, sort of a generic question, but do you think it has served its purpose, and do you like the way instant replay is handled in college baseball?
I don't really have a big issue with it. It was something that we actually implemented this year in our games here at Coastal, and next year it's going to become a full-fledged part of Sun Belt Conference games as well. We started utilizing it this year. It seemed to work pretty smoothly. I think we had maybe about 25 reviews over the course of the entire season, which, I don't know where that number ranks. Probably have to do a little research to see how that falls. But one of the really cool things and changes that was made for this year is, of course, you guys have probably seen it on some of the games, but having the home plate umpire or the crew chief actually announce to the crowd, similar to the NFL, what the outcome of the replay was. And I think that was a really nice touch. And there's already some feedback that maybe some of the other sports that have engaged in replay, like volleyball, for example, on the college level and others, may go to that same system. But I think the fans really enjoyed that. I think it was a really nice touch. Again, the whole key with replay, as you guys know, you've got to be able to turn it around quickly. You've got to be able to make fairly quick decisions. And that's something that will constantly be monitored. We get piles and piles of data from the umpire director as we go through our committee meetings throughout the rest of the year, updates on how it's working across the country, and everything that's being done to expedite the decision. And as long as that can be done in a quick manner, obviously it's something that you want to have the technology there, and you don't want to miss all.
Take off your baseball cap for a moment, put your AD hat on. It's obviously a big day for college athletics and the United States as a whole, the 50th anniversary of Title IX being signed into legislation on June 23rd, of 1972. In your role as AD at Coastal, you manage obviously men's and women's sports. How big of an impact do you believe that piece of legislation has had, not just on the world at large, but certainly on college athletics?
Well, I think it's probably one of the handful of pieces of legislation in our country's history that's been incredibly transformative. And Title IX certainly doesn't just stop when you talk about the athletic landscape. It covers a lot of other things that have been very important and key changes to our society. But certainly from an athletic perspective, we're not at Coastal a particularly old school. We're just about to celebrate our 70th anniversary. But even here, within the couple of years after that was passed, you saw women's athletics actually start in earnest. And then it has grown through the years. And, most recently, about 4 or 5 years ago, we added beach volleyball as a sport. The participation rates we've seen go up astronomically during that time. So you can't limit whatsoever, I think, the impact that it has had and the opportunity that it's provided for women and for young girls that want to get into athletics. And it's certainly something that we're mindful of every day in terms of how we manage our department. So it's a landmark event and certainly should be celebrated as such.
Before we let you go, I definitely wanted to get your take on the upcoming athletic season, especially inside the Sun Belt as conference expansion continues. Your league is no exception to the rule, bringing in 4 very good schools, not just in football, but it appears everything, including baseball. How do you see those 4 universities fitting in, and what will Sun Belt football look like this year that maybe separates the way it looked the past 4 or 5 years?
Well, we're bringing in 4 tremendous institutions. I think when you look at how the realignment the dust has settled over the past year, I don't think the Sun Belt could have come out any better. In fact, may have been the overall winner in a lot of ways. We were able to add 4 institutions that give us great geographical balance, number one, by bringing in Old Dominion, Southern Miss, James Madison, and Marshall. You've got very strong brands in specific sports. As you mentioned in baseball, Southern Miss was a team that made it to the Super Regionals. They hosted both the regional and the Super. In fact, we're beaten by Ole Miss, who's now in the championship series in that Super Regional. So you've got tremendous baseball programs. You guys watched what Old Dominion did last year as they came through the Columbia Regional. And then James Madison moving up to FBS. We know about Marshall's brand in college athletics. So I think it's a huge win for our league. It's going to make everything tougher. I don't think there's any question about that. The competitive level within our conference now just went up a notch or several notches. So we've got to be prepared for that. I think it's going to strengthen every sport. When you look at our football schedule this year, we go to Marshall. You've got Appalachian at home. We go to Virginia. We play Army in our opener at home. So it is a very tough slate as we see the league transition, but it also means that our league has an opportunity with those stronger programs to continue getting multiple bids, maybe to the NCAA postseason. You saw that happen this year with baseball with 4. You're bringing in a couple of teams that have been in the mix the last few years, so maybe that could even go a step farther.
One last thing, Matt, we'll let you go. Matt Hogue, AD at Coastal with us. Story came out the other day, Post and Courier, about Coastal having to find a different way to pay for a third of its $15 million indoor practice facility project. The Joint Bond Review Committee, June 21, requested CCU use a different source of funds for $5 million of the project instead of using capital project reserve funds. To us simpletons, what does that mean for you guys?
Well, we're moving forward as planned, Phil. We've had discussions with the Joint Bond Committee, and their request was for that third to pay for it a different way, and we feel confident that we can do that. Looking at our auxiliary resources, which is derived from revenue that's generated through anything from concession sales to bookstore commissions, things of that nature. It was a little bit of a request, a different request, but I think we're confident that we can take care of it and move forward. So I don't know that anyone has concerns that we won't be able to get our project up and running here soon. And look, we're very respectful that that's how the process works in our state, and that's why you have these checkoffs. And it was not what I would say was a controversial discussion or meeting by any stretch. They're charged with managing the resources and the policies and procedures of our state. We respect that as state legislatures. They said you got to do it this way, so we're going to modify and do it the way they're telling us to.
All right, very good. Any truth to the rumor you're thinking about cutting the salaries of the broadcast crew to help fund that, or can we dismiss that rumor?
I think they're safe.
Well, you got a great broadcast crew, and you got the best one right here on Sports Talk. So let's don't be touching those boys.
Well, that's near and dear to my heart, so we won't look there first.
True that. Listen, you could fire them and do it yourself and save some money, though, but we don't want you to do that. No. Hey, Matt, great talking to you. Amazing job that you've done at Coastal Carolina. Continued good success for you and your guys, and we'll see you soon.
Very good. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you,
Matt.
All right, Matt Ho, got to go to the quick break here and come back with recruiting. Appreciate Matt being with us, and I've said it once, Chris. I've said it 100 times. I've known him since he was a young pup in broadcasting. An amazing job he's done because he took something at Coastal when it was nothing as a broadcaster, and now has risen not only locally to a high level as the AD there, but obviously within the athletic director's world around the country in a position of prominence. We'll be back.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I love sports, and I've helped people for over 30 years. Contact me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com when the insurance company won't pay your claim or you have complicated issues. Some other business causes your business to lose money, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. When you lose a relative and find out you got cut out of a will or don't get what was promised. When you have serious injury, like from a wreck or mishap or on the job, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
Summer weather has arrived in South Carolina, and you know what that means. Sweet, tasty South Carolina peaches are hitting shelves near you. Most people tend to think of Georgia as the peach state, but South Carolina is the East Coast's top producing peach state, so we know a thing or two about a great tasting peach. The next time you're in the grocery store or local farmer's market, keep an eye out for those sweet, tasty, certified SC peaches. Discover more about the tastier peach state at scpeach.org.
Life, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
Peanuts and baseball, the perfect pair. There's nothing better than enjoying a bag of crunchy, great-tasting in-shell peanuts washed down with your favorite beverage of choice while cheering on your baseball team. This summer, grab a bag or two of delicious protein-packed Virginia Carolina's grown in-shell peanuts. America's favorite snack and America's favorite sport. A match sure to please. This message is brought to you by Virginia Carolina's peanut farmers. To learn more about peanuts, visit the website aboutpeanuts.com. That's right, aboutpeanuts.com. Enjoy a bag of peanuts today.
Independence Day is coming. Is there a better way to spend 4th of July weekend than listening to good music, eating some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, enjoying an ice cold beverage, and watching baseball? Oh, did we mention we'll have two of the biggest fireworks shows in Segra Park history? Join the Fireflies for Fireworks with the Phil, presented by Prisma Health, July 2nd, and a game against the Pelicans, July 4th. Tickets are available now at firefliestickets.com.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. futurescholar.com.
Hey folks, it's Mike Morgan for Gibson Insurance. Former Gamecock player Bo Mobley and former coach Stuart Lake want you on their team for all your insurance needs. Now, cost-effective solutions is what they're all about for the now and for the long term. They're licensed with every insurance company in the state. They've got offices in Columbia, Greenville, and Sumter. But if you're listening right now, let me direct you to call Bo and Stu today at 803-605-0029. That's 803-605-0029. Let my good friends take great care of you.
All right, got to get to the recruiting. Can't believe we pushed it back this late, but we did. Brought to you by Seawells. Don't forget the Friday end of the week buffet tomorrow at Seawells from 11 to 2. It's only $13. They'll have another great array of delicious food for you and the very best in the catering business. You want to give the folks at Seawells a call, 803-771-7385, SeawellsCateringSC.com. Receiver C.J. Adams, 6'3", 210 of Mableton, Georgia, been a primary target for South Carolina, went to the spring game, liked how he would fit in. He tells us he just needs to finalize some stuff, but I want to go to South Carolina. I might commit there. I don't know when, though. I just want to see it. And then wants to see Kentucky and then think about things. But South Carolina is number one, he tells us. Been talking to Stepp and Beamer, and he's coming in for his official visit this weekend. So he's going to get another look at South Carolina. He took an official to Maryland Tuesday through Thursday. So he's finishing up at Maryland today, and they showed him a lot of great stuff as well. He also likes UAB and also Kentucky. 54 receptions, 936 yards, 11 touchdowns. Camden defensive tackle Xavier McLeod, if you missed it last night, named his top 6. USC, LSU, Georgia, Florida, Michigan, Texas A&M. Going to Michigan this weekend, coming off of LSU. Clemson offered 2024 defensive end Elijah Rushing, 6'6", 230 of Tucson. Georgia, Florida, Arizona, Arizona State, Cal, Pitt, Jackson State, Oregon, Miami, Michigan, Notre Dame, Michigan State, A&M, North Carolina, Kentucky, Penn State, some other offers. He was at Clemson Wednesday, a day after visiting Georgia. Wren safety Trayvon West taking an official to Indiana this weekend. Defensive end Keldrick Falk has set July 5th for his commitment date. Clemson, Auburn, Florida, Florida State, the finalist. He was at Clemson on June 3rd for his official. USC offered 2024 defensive end Deion Stutz, 6'3", 250, Memphis. 2024 quarterback Jaden Bradford, going to be at Louisville Friday. 2024 offensive tackle Blake Franks of Greenville was at Louisville today. Basketball, Clemson offered 6'7", Asa Thomas of Lake Forest, Illinois. And the Tigers offered 6'3", Mike Williams of Baltimore. College of Charleston has also offered him. Baseball, infielder Caleb Denny announced a grad transfer from Oral Roberts to USC. Previously played at Arkansas. He hit .331 this season, 11 homers and 57 RBIs. He committed 4 errors in 102 chances. Sounds like somebody who can swing the bats. Of course, pitching out there could be questionable. And as you know, USC landed a third former Clemson player yesterday, right-hander Ricky Williams, a Columbia native, is transferring to USC. Michigan right-hander Willie Weiss, 6'3", 225, transferring to Clemson for his final season. 9-6 in 3 seasons with the Wolverines. 17 saves, 3.67 ERA, struck out 127 and walked 66, but 6'3", 225 can probably bring the heat. And the Don't forget, South Carolina has official visits this weekend. Others will be taking official visits other places. We'll update that for you. Chris will handle the recruiting report for you tomorrow night. He'll update all of that. I know that you'll have a sleepless night worrying about that, huh?
I will stay up all night and make sure I compile it so it is worthy of Seawell's sponsorship.
Yes, it's got to be tasteful, and it's got to be, properly prepared and perfectly seasoned to live up to Seawell's, level. All right, y'all have a great night tomorrow night. Thank you for being with us tonight. We always appreciate your time with us, and thanks to our guest as well. Enjoy the guys tomorrow night. Appreciate you being with us. Have a great night from here at Sports Talk.
Local in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Columbia's local talk radio experience.